Welcome to Patriots 4th and 2, the official podcast of PatsFans.com.
We are back on Patriots 4th and 2, the official podcast of PatsFans.com. I'm Russ Goldman. Along with me is Steve Balestrieri and Derek Havens. On today's show, we'll be sharing our thoughts on the Pats signing two of their players that were available in free agency. After that, we have several topics to discuss in the Patriots 4th and 2 roundtable. We have much to get through. Before I do anything, I always have to welcome my co-host back to the show. Mr. Havens, good morning. How you doing?
What's going on, guys? Good to talk to you this morning. Definitely looking forward to the show today. I am getting very excited because the draft is about a month away. And, the NFL rumor mill is still cooking. I love that.
Okay, well, no, definitely still cooking there, Derek. Very good point there. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I apologize again for being late. Came home from the gym and sitting there reading the news and completely lost track of time. But no, like Derek said, I'm very excited. I love this time of year. I love the NFL draft. This is because there's so many options. There's so many possibilities. And, I have my own big board on my dry erase board over here, which just Patriots guys that I think would fit. And I have it down by position. And I've been doing it a little at a time since the Super Bowl, writing up some draft profiles, and I've posted a few up, and I have some more coming up, including a mock draft on Friday. So,
okay, well, very good there. And listen, in a couple of weeks, we are going to be doing a draft show and maybe a few draft shows. Derek and I were talking about that, and we definitely need to do that. And Steve, at that point, you can share your big board. Derek can share his big board, and I'll share no board because I really don't participate.
At some point, if we have the time, we should start kind of resetting the team needs. Russ, you and I were talking pre-show, and I couldn't remember for anything that what I wanted to bring up on the show, but I remembered I wanted to reset, kind of reset the table as far as team needs now with what the teams, with what the team has done so far in free agency. It might be time to kind of look at it and say, okay, where are we kind of leaning? Because I would say at least first, initially after the Super Bowl loss, we saw mostly almost all defensive prospects for the Patriots in mock drafts and in discussions. And I think after the Solder departure, you've seen a lot more offensive tackles penciled in early in some of these mock drafts. And, I don't know where you guys stand on it. And maybe left tackle has now kind of jumped to the top of the list as far as team needs go. I don't know if you want to get into it now, if you want to table it for another time.
Well, let's table that, Derek. And I definitely want to get to it. It's a great topic that we should get to because things now change once free agency begins and we look towards the draft. It's definitely something that I want to talk about with you, and definitely want you to share your big board. Like I said, I'm sure you have a big one just like Steve, and want to get your thoughts on where you think the Patriots should go. It's a good point. Do they now look at tackle, or do they think that they have it with Tony Garcia? I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about a player that they just brought back. Does that change things a little bit? I don't think so. I think that they still need to look at offensive tackle, left tackle, but it's something that we should definitely talk about. I agree with you there. Let's get into this. And as I mentioned, to start off, the Patriots did bring back two players. One could be a potential Hall of Famer. I'm going to throw it out there if they do let this position of, special teams player into the NFL Hall of Fame. He should be a candidate at some point. That's Matthew Slater. And Steve, I'm going to start with you. Matthew Slater actually had a visit with the Steelers. Maybe I'm being naive, but I actually thought he was going to be gone. I thought he was gone at this point. But this is something that the Patriots have done. They let their players shop themselves around, and then some of them come back, and Matthew Slater happens to be one of them. I think he's a valuable member of the New England Patriots. Like I said, he could be a potential Hall of Famer. I'll say it again. Your thoughts about bringing back Slater?
And I agree with you. I think he's at least a person that you can kick his name around as a special teams player in the Hall of Fame. Now, will he get there? That's a question for another day. However, I think it was a great move bringing him back for a couple of reasons. And one being that, he is what he is on the special teams. He's a great performer there. He's a multiple Pro Bowl, all pro kind of guy. Number two is, I think he's such a valuable, member in the locker room. I mean, he's a team leader. It's not coincidence that even when he's hurt and not playing, who breaks down the team when they win a football game in the locker room? And it sounds like a minuscule, kind of little meaning nothing thing, but we all know when it comes to Bill Belichick that everything means something, and there's no coincidences with the Patriots. So I think with him coming back, it was a great move on the team's part, and I'm glad to see him back. I think he fulfills a valuable role on and off the field, and he's almost like a coach on the field anyway.
Very good point. I'm glad that they brought back Matthew Slater, a valuable member of the New England Patriots. Derek, your thoughts on bringing back Slater? Did you think he was gone? I actually did.
Well, I'm glad that he's back. I mean, he's been so valuable to this team, and he's a great leader, and he definitely carries Belichick's water, which I'm not saying in a bad way. I mean, he knows how the team, what the team philosophy is, and how the team is run, and he's been around for so long that he's a guy that people can look to and keep in line, and he can kind of self-police the locker room in some aspects, and everybody everybody loves him, so this is a guy that is great to have back on the team, and they certainly place value on special teams. We know that they have, some teams have 4 players. This team has like 12 players that are all stellar special teamers. So between him and Ebner and Flowers and King and Patterson, I mean, they are going to be set, for this special teams, unit. It's funny. I list 6 guys right there, and there's probably 4 guys that you could just keep throwing off the list. So, they're going to have a very solid third unit, which is important. I mean, that can often separate games. It doesn't always. Not every game has that kind of impact, but a few special teams errors, and it can derail your entire game plan, even if you were solid on offense and defense that day.
It's a great point, Derek, and I'll just say this. Just think about a kickoff, and Matthew Slater is a gunner, and he's right down there, and he gets them, say, between the 10 and the 15 instead of the 25. That's a huge difference.
Absolutely. And, so you've had Ebner's been, he's been touted as been even a better player for parts of the last 2 years. Now that's, you could debate that, and that's fine. And, you talk about someone like Cordarrelle Patterson, who they brought in recently, and we talked about at length previously on the show. You're talking about some of the best gunners in the NFL in these situations, and you continue to keep pinning your opposition back, which is great.
Okay, excellent there, Derek. All right back to you. Let's talk about the Patriots re-signing Adrian Waddle, which I think is a good move. They brought him back. He shopped himself around, but he came back to the Patriots. So I want your thoughts on the signing, but I'm also going to pose it to you this way. Is he your left tackle? Would you be happy with him being your left tackle? So answer your thoughts about bringing him back and that part of it as well.
Well, he should 100% play the left side if he's playing. To me, the thought of moving Marcus Cannon to the left and then putting Waddle to the right just seems to be causing a bigger issue. I mean, Marcus Cannon is someone who we didn't think at one point we didn't think could develop into a tackle. based on his play and really turned into a pretty good player over time. And not a whole lot happened at the owners' meetings over the weekend, but one thing that was confirmed by Belichick is that Skarnecki is coming back, which I think is huge for some of this younger guy's development, especially. So I keep Marcus Cannon on the right side. I think Waddle goes into the left side, and I don't look at Waddle as my ideal left tackle. So am I thrilled about it? No, but I think you could be in a worse situation. So having him back will be nice. The continuity is always great to have. And you look at a guy like Antonio Garcia, who the Patriots drafted in the 3rd round last year. This is someone who at Troy was a very good prospect, didn't allow a sack in college, and then over he's drafted by the Patriots and then develops a medical condition, and he has blood clots in his lungs. He loses 40 pounds. He's not able to work out. Well, obviously a very serious medical condition, and you almost have to play him like a wild card now. I don't think you can depend on him. I don't expect someone to gain 40 pounds back, get back into football shape, get back into playing functional strength while also learning how to play at the NFL level. So is he still a prospect? Of course. Of course he is. And you know what? Ideally, he is healthy. He overcomes this, and he comes back in a year, and he's your left tackle in 2019, and Waddle is that bridge guy. I think, to me, that could be one of the better case scenarios. Or we could look to the draft, like we mentioned already.
Sure.
Maybe they take a guy at 31 or in the 2nd round, and they let him sit for a year and develop, and Waddle's that bridge guy, and then you have the next guy take over.
It's a very interesting situation, Derek, and I like the way that you were planning this out in your head. You were saying that you could see him as a prospect down the road, maybe next season, and that actually makes sense. What's interesting, while you were saying this, and you're saying, well, potentially drafting a left tackle at number 31, and I'm thinking the Patriots rarely do what we think they're going to do. So I'm starting to lean towards they're not going to draft a left tackle in the 1st round. That's just me, just because it doesn't happen often. It's happened a few times, but generally they don't do what we think they're going to do. But we'll see. I wouldn't be against them doing that. Steve, over to you. Thoughts of the re-signing of Adrian Waddle, and feel free to share your thoughts on what Derek just shared there.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think he's your bridge guy this year. They liked what they had with him. He's shown he can play. I mean, I think Waddle has, when he's been in there and healthy, I think he's been very good. And, and again, we talked about this earlier. I mean, is he the guy you want to hitch your wagon to? I wouldn't go that far. But, I mean, if they have to rely on him while they're waiting for the young guys to develop, then I think they can live with that. I think that's something that, we've seen that before. We really don't know when Garcia, started getting better and started working out. I mean, everyone took it when he said he was cleared for football that he just started working out, but it may have happened months before that. So it's going to be interesting to see when they come out for OTAs, one, if he's even out there, and two, what he looks like. I mean, that's going to be one of the prime things that, we'll all be looking at. I was starting to think that maybe they were going to draft a tackle, and, reading the tea leaves, maybe I'm overreacting to it, but, the guy that probably has the closest pulse on the team is probably Mike Reese. And, Mike Reese kind of didn't really word it the way, it's like a definitive thing. But, from reading Mike for so many years now, excuse me, I think the Patriots feel like they already have their left tackle on this team. And he was talking about Cole Croston, of all people.
I saw that.
And if you read that column,
Well,
it's like, if you kind of read between the lines, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots don't draft a left tackle in the first 3 rounds of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have started putting, Colton Miller, for, as a draft prospect. He's been the big name at 31. Even a guy like, Don Banks, recent, mock draft for, PatriotsFourthAndTwo. That's been a name that I've seen thrown out quite a bit. And, NFL Network did a kind of conjoined mock draft, and it was the same for him the other day. Cole Crossan is a player that has a lot of connection to the team because of the Iowa pipeline and the Ferenc connection. And so, you're right, Steve. Mike Reese doesn't just throw shit against the wall. I mean, anything he writes out there, he is very calculated. And for one, Mike's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my whole life. I mean, anyone who's interacted with Mike knows that. And he doesn't have an agenda. He carries the team's water a little bit, but for the most part, he's very fair and he's very calculated in what he does. And I could see that Cole Crossan could definitely be in play. I mean, hell, I talked about Andrew Jelks the other week. That's a talented player that's been in the system. I think there are some prospects.
They kept both of those guys around all last season, and like 100%. Mike was saying in his column, and again, Mike is he's very guarded with his words. He's not effusive in his praise, nor he doesn't slam them when he criticizes them. And again, he's kind of taken on a Belichick kind of a role where you kind of have to read between the lines with some of the stuff that he writes. And he was like, they usually don't keep guys around for no reason. And, and then the way he was wording it, and I was like, he has a pretty good pulse. He has a good feel for this team. I think, after I read that I think it was Saturday, I was like, okay, I'm convinced now that they're probably not going to draft a tackle in the first 3 rounds.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you brought that to the table, Steve. I want to see how this all plays out. I'm not against them drafting a left tackle, but I have something else in mind early in the draft, and that's quarterback. And that, to me, is something that a position that they need to take care of. And if they see someone in the first round, I wouldn't be against them taking a quarterback in the first round. No, people don't want to hear me say that because, no, we need this, we need X, we need Y.
I got two things for you, buddy.
Go ahead.
For one, they don't need to draft a quarterback.
Oh, please, Derek, come on. Don't start with this. Really?
They don't. Okay. You don't have to. I'm not trying to start a fight because we can fight about something. My second topic in a second. But
sure.
Let's save some of the fun for Johnny Manziel. But I will say that they don't need to have a quarterback in waiting. Ideally, you do. But you don't need to draft the next guy. Now, I agree with you.
That's a crock of crap, Derek. Crock of crap. Go ahead.
No, there have been a lot of times where you don't have the guy in waiting, or teams that have not had the guy in waiting that have been successful shortly after a great quarterback leaves. Now, you do have guys in the system like Aaron Rodgers or Steve Young or Tom Brady. I mean,
yes.
But you do have occasions where you can be set up shortly after a great quarterback leaves for whatever reason. I do think it's interesting that, and this
That's
has
right,
nothing
Derek.
to
Let's
do.
go back to the days of Hugh Millen. I'm right there with you. Let's go all the way back to Mark Wilson. Let's do it again.
Can I interject here for a second?
Feel free to, Steve.
I wrote this exact same thing this week, Derek. They might not. I mean, if they don't like a quarterback, if they don't like what's out there when they draft, they may go, and we've seen them do this. They go against the grain. They may put off drafting a quarterback this season if they don't like what's out there. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback to try to, force a round peg into a square hole. I don't believe that. If there's a guy out there that they like, then I think they're going to make a move for him. If that guy isn't there, I think it's very possible that they might not draft a quarterback, and they might pick up a developmental kid for training camp, off the undrafted pile.
Well, can I just chime in on this since we're getting a little heated here, and I'm really ticked off by this whole topic because this goes back to my whole Garoppolo thing.
But don't be heated. Let's just talk about it.
Oh, well, no, let's talk about it, Derek, because, again, I'm a little older than you. Yes, I'm an old man, but I remember the days before all the success.
Very old. Very old. Don't forget that.
Thank you very much for that, Derek. But listen, Steve brings up a valid point that they potentially would not draft a quarterback if they don't get the quarterback that they want. I'm there with him on that. He could be 100% right on that. But they need to be looking at the position, and they need to draft one if they find their guy. If they have their guy, they better draft him.
We're in total agreement there.
Yeah, we're
I
all
think
in
we're
agreement.
all in total agreement there. The point Derek and I were making was the fact that if he's not there, or it's not someone they like, they might just,
But see, I think Derek's going in a different way. Derek, Derek, do you want them to draft a quarterback? That's what I want to know from you.
My apologies.
I think that if I think that ideally
my phone just started talking to me.
I think ideally you have the guy in waiting. Ideally, of course you do.
Right.
I've said it before on the show. Not enough teams draft and develop quarterbacks successfully. The Packers used to do it. The 49ers used to do it at a very high level.
Of course.
But I will say this: if you are looking at some of this team's needs right now, and you say linebacker, edge player, tackle,
I'm still going quarterback first. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm going quarterback first.
Well, if you have all these guys rated at 8, where the Patriots are picking, if all these guys are rated around 80, and all at these different positional players, but you have your quarterback ratings at 60, you don't reach that much. You just don't. You just don't do that. Now, if it's close and the quarterback supersedes all other positions on the football field because it's the most important.
Right.
I mean, you could be a totally stacked football team. If you don't have the quarterback play, you are not going to be a legit contender. I.e.,
you're making my point, Derek.
Last year.
You're making my point.
The Jaguars of last year. You look at the Jaguars roster right now. There's not a whole lot of big team needs, quote unquote. You put Tom Brady on Jacksonville's roster, and they're winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean,
Derek,
it's the same thing.
Derek, you're making my point on all this. You're actually backing my argument here.
What's up?
You're backing my argument because that's my whole thing on this. I understand why everyone wants a linebacker. They want a left tackle. The most important position right now is to find the successor for Tom Brady, okay? Sorry, that is got to be your number one initiative. That's mine.
Okay, so
don't do it. You're making a huge mistake.
Okay, well, hang on. Wait,
see, I disagree.
Let's go on something else now. What if? Now let's look at this now. What if we look at it from this way? Okay, the team is obviously it's Super Bowl or bust for this team. If the team does not get to the Super Bowl, I'm not saying they have to win it. But they have to go to the Super Bowl next year. It's a failure. That's how I look at it. Especially the way the NFL is out right now.
No, they don't.
Totally
disagree.
Oh my God, Russ, shut up. That's stupid. There's
totally
nobody in the AFC that's any good. There's no one in the AFC that's good. There's 8 teams in the NFC who are all good, and there's like 3 in the AFC. There's nobody that's freaking good. And you have the best quarterback of all time who has 2 seasons left.
It's not a failure, Derek. If they get to get to the AFC, it's not a failure.
Is. Okay, let's stop. We have to talk about this because we totally disagree on that. So that's okay. I'm going to get way too worked up.
We are going in 2 different directions, Derek.
Okay, so you have the final, let's say, 2 seasons of Brady and Belichick, hypothetically. Yep. You have the final years of them. So
how do you know that, by the way? How do you know that?
Well, I mean, you have to just listen to 98.5. That's all I talk about. I mean, just in reality, Russ, you have a 41-year-old quarterback and a 66-year-old head coach. Or I'm 65, he will be 66.
Right.
Okay, so if you are looking at these 2 guys entering their final years, or at least Brady's, because Brady can't play that much longer. He just can't.
Sure.
And even if we want to argue on that, that's fine. Let's just say 2 years hypothetically. If you are going to draft a quarterback high, that does take away from adding players that helps you win a Super Bowl.
I'm willing to do that.
And that's fine. I'm not saying I don't think everybody is. I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
I understand that. I understand that not everyone is, but you just talked about the end of this window, right? I'm trying to find a way to unlock another window. And by doing that is drafting another quarterback. And they wouldn't need to do that if, oh, by the way, they held on to Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, I can go down that road.
But you realize that you would have – and by the way, I think that Brady would be – I will be effing pissed if Brady leaves after this season. I will be pissed because I don't care. Well, because they should have franchised Garoppolo and kept him. If Brady has to play more than
You're making my argument again, Derek. Thank you. You're making my argument.
No, I'm not. It's a different argument.
Are you not?
Yes, it is. It's a different argument. If you trade Garoppolo, that's fine because it's hard to keep him. I mean, Miguel can come on the podcast and he can lay out exactly why you couldn't keep Garoppolo around.
Right,
I mean,
Miguel's right about all that.
$137.5 million.
Right, Miguel is completely right about the financial situation, and no one's willing to talk about what I would do, what I would have done. I've had a good amount of time to think about it, and yes, I'm going to say it right now, and I've said it before, and I'm not afraid to say it. I was afraid to say it before. I would have traded Tom Brady. Okay,
and that's fine. And you know what? Just because you got balls, and there are not a lot of people who can fucking pull that trigger. I mean, I honestly, of all the conspiracy theories that are out there about Kraft and Belichick and Brady, yep. I don't think it's stupid to say that Kraft told Belichick, you're not trading Tom. I don't think that's stupid.
No,
because
it's not.
So I think that if Brady was to leave after this year, I would be pissed. If he plays 2 more years, then I wouldn't be. And I would just say, okay, I would view it the same way I view it now. Business is business. You can't pay everybody. It's just not feasible. You have to build a team. But if I knew that Garoppolo was going to step in or could step in next year and Brady hangs it up, then I'd be mad because I know that it was almost impossible to work around tagging Jimmy. I would have tagged him and I would have let other guys go. I don't care. I would punt on the year, really. I'd be like, okay, we'll just go all in. We'll put ourselves in cap jail for the future. I don't give a shit because we have our next guy.
Right.
I mean, like, so to go back to your point, ideally you do have the next guy, but I think what Steve and I are saying is it's not necessarily the only way to go. I mean, you could draft a guy like Mason Rudolph. You could draft a guy like Luke Falk. You could go with Mike Girardi's guy and you could go with Logan Woodside. Yep, Kyle Lauletta. There's a lot of guys in this second or third round that you could take, and maybe you go that way. I'm not saying and to your overall point, I would rather have the next player, but
that's my whole point, Derek.
It's not going to be a shocker to me if they don't take a guy in the first 3 rounds. It won't be a shocker.
Okay. I have to get Steve's thoughts. Steve, I'm sorry. Of course, Derek and I go off on this tangent, and it sounds like you disagree with my thoughts about the first round drafting quarterback. I'm just saying, if they had their guy there, I would take him.
You can't make the quarterback your focus of the draft because then you're going to reach. You always try to build your team, and you always go for the best player available.
Listen, I totally agree with you, Steve. But let me.
Okay,
go ahead.
Now, let me finish. You guys argued for 5 minutes. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
If you're looking for a quarterback, you have to find one that your head coach and your offensive coordinator both agree that this is the guy that we feel if we bring him in, he can lead the offense that we run, and he's going to do it. If that guy isn't there, and then you try to reach for it, and you're trying to squeeze somebody else in there, that's what poor teams do. That's why teams fail, because they're like, okay, we have to take a quarterback now. We have to. So we're going to draft this guy, and even though he doesn't fit what we do, we're going to draft him because this is what we need. And if you do that, you're going to have the Hugh Millens, the Tommy Hodsons, and what else, whatever. I mean, I remember those years as well. I'm older than both of you. So now I don't have a problem if they decide. Now, will I be happy about it? No. But if they decide to, hey, you know what? This guy isn't here. So we're going to wait 1 more year and we're going to go for it next year. And if they decide that, then, hey, you have to go with it.
Okay. Let me go right back to you. And I want to just clarify. And I'm glad that you said it the way that you said it, Steve. Here's my thing on the quarterback. I think quarterback has to be the number 1 priority, but you just specified exactly what I want to go on this. I don't want them to draft a quarterback for drafting a quarterback. That would be a huge mistake, and that goes to your argument. My point is, if they have their guy in sight or one of their guys in sight that is the player they want at the quarterback position that they feel is the right guy, whether it's the first round, second round, or third round, they should draft him. If he's there in the first round, he's there sitting right there for them, they should draft him. They should be thinking quarterback first if he's available, the player they want. If he's not, then you do what you just said. You go for the best player available that's on their board. But they have to think the number one priority has to be the next quarterback because they screwed up with Garoppolo, Steve.
Now, I will to throw up out there, and I know we've talked about it. We've seen now the Patriots twice in the last week sniff around Johnny Manziel. I'm not talking about whether you want him or not or what kind of value he could bring. We can go down that rabbit hole if you want. I just think it was interesting. The Patriots were one. There are 12 or 13 teams.
Sure.
I've seen two different numbers reported, but there was a private workout in California where 12 or 13 teams showed up. And not only were the Patriots one of those teams, they also apparently met with him and weighed him. Apparently he's around 199 pounds right now, which is a good weight for him. And then he threw at Texas A&M's pro day yesterday. And he was throwing around to a guy like Christian Kirk, who actually, surprisingly, he's a very good receiver in this class, a really good slot prospect. He was actually one of the first actually noted and mentioned guys that the Patriots are having in one of their each team gets 30 meetings, official meetings with prospects, and Kirk actually is one of the first ones that I've seen that's been made public that he actually met with the Patriots. So I thought that was interesting. But Christian Kirk was there. Mike Evans was there, and Manziel was throwing yesterday, and all 32 teams were there, and the Patriots apparently met with him before and after. I'm not saying that they're talking with him, but I think it's interesting. Clearly, I think they've shown some interest there, and I personally, I know he draws a lot of debate from both sides. Personally, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring him in. If you think he's committed to coming back, and if you think that he can bring value, then you pull the trigger on him. I haven't talked to him. I don't know. But he seems like he's been keeping his nose clean, and he's been working hard, and he wants another shot. And clearly there's talent there. But, why not bring him in? If you're not guaranteeing him any money, why not bring him in and see what he can do? Because right now at the backup quarterback position, you have Brian Hoyer. And Brian Hoyer's a nice guy, but what does he add for you value-wise as a backup quarterback?
Okay. Derek, here's the thing that I think gets lost in this whole thing. And then I'll go to you, Steve, about the situation with Johnny Manziel. You just mentioned, a dozen teams looking at him? Why is it the Patriots is being the team that everyone's talking about? There are other teams looking at him too.
Well, I think that's the reason.
Why is it always thought of as that the Patriots are the team that's gonna pull the trigger on him?
Well, no, I think there's two reasons there, two things there, Russ. For what you're getting at, I think that a lot of times agents of players throw the Patriots in the mix because the Patriots are one of the better teams, and they want other teams to be like, oh shit, the Patriots are looking at him. Well, we need to look at him. I mean, if Bill wants him, then we need him. Yep. That is a for sure thing. So
it totally is.
But I would also say to you, this isn't one of those things where agents are throwing it out there. The Patriots weighed him at. I thought it was weird that they met with him and weighed him at a private workout, and then you meet with a player at a pro day before and after. I'm sure the other teams did too. I'm not saying the Patriots are the only people that did this, but just the fact that they did it, and I've seen this by 3 or 4 different reporters. Just the fact that they did this shows interest, and that's where I think it's interesting.
Okay, let me ask Steve. Do you think there's serious interest by the Patriots in Johnny Manziel? And ask you as well, would you like to see the Patriots bring in Johnny Manziel?
No to both. I think this is a classic disinformation program. I think this is what the Patriots do. It's like all of a sudden now, there's teams looking for quarterbacks. We know this. And they're one of them. They're looking for a quarterback. Does Johnny Manziel fit what the Patriots offense does? Absolutely not. Okay. Their offense is all on timing. It's on chemistry. It's on, it's on hitting a spot, and it's on accurate, short, intermediate passing. That's none of the things he does. Okay, so let's just nip this in the bud. This is disinformation. This is what they do. They're being openly about it. Oh, well, they met with him twice now. So now they're getting some of these teams, and some of the dumber ones. They're going to say, they're interested in this guy. Maybe we should sign him, and which probably leads me to believe that there's somebody in this draft that they like that's going to go in the middle rounds, and then another team that might be more willing to take him would forego that quarterback in the middle rounds. You look at this guy; he has no work ethic before. Now he might have one now. We don't know. But going all the way back to Texas A&M, they only had like 5 plays that they ran because he wouldn't come to practice. He wouldn't do his homework. The same thing happened with the Cleveland Browns. So even if he's got his nose clean, which I believe that's true now, it looks by all, everything we're seeing, he's cleaned up his act. But does he automatically have a work ethic now where he's going to, the last in, the first out isn't going to cut it with Bill Belichick or the Patriots. Not for your quarterback, not for anybody. Okay. And, that's been his MO. So I don't think, one, they're interested at all. I think this is just a huge smokescreen. And number 2, he doesn't fit what they do at all. So I don't want him.
I agree with
both
of those
be
points,
a smokescreen, but it's not disinformation. It could be a smokescreen, though. I mean, maybe they are. It could be something where they're just throwing their name out there to distract teams or whatever. I mean, I don't think that's too far out there. But it's not like there have been like the interesting thing about this is it's not local guys who are throwing out the Manziel news. It's national guys, and to me that makes a difference because
but there was a national writer, and I can't remember who it was, Derek, that actually responded to Jeff Howe talking about that the Patriots were interested, and a national writer responded back on Twitter because I saw it. I just can't remember who it was, and said that there are other teams interested as well.
Well, yeah, I would think that there are. I mean, like I said, you've had 12 or 13 teams, and besides the Patriots, I don't know who was there. You have them at a private workout, and then all teams were at the A&M workout. So you have at least somebody, interested. I mean, I think he'll find a spot, whether that's with the Patriots or not. Like I said, the only reason I would bring him in, is because I'm just not okay with just Brian Hoyer back there as quarterback.
Okay.
I don't want. And that's nothing against Brian Hoyer. It's nothing against him. I just know that if you want Brian Hoyer to fill in for a game for you, fine. But as far as your treading water theory goes, Russ, I'd rather have a guy like Manziel who totally flamed out. And, I mean, he really fucked his whole career up because of all the things that Steve just mentioned. Bad work ethic, bad attitude, couldn't lay off drugs and alcohol, all that stuff. But if he's okay with if he's got his mind right now, and he doesn't necessarily fit the system or anything, if you're not going to draft a quarterback, I would rather bring in a guy like that who deserves a second chance. If he's willing to work and he's got a good weight and mindset, bring him in because he adds more value than a guy like Hoyer does. And they can. And if you want to draft a second or third round guy who you think could be the next guy, then screw them both because I want to give the rookie the reps. I want him to get in the system. I want him to throw. So it's like I look at the Jets situation right now. Not to go too far off topic, I look at the Jets situation now and I go, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? You gave up 3 second-round picks and a first-round pick to get to number 3 overall. But then you signed Josh McCown for like $10 million or something like that. And then you signed Teddy Bridgewater for $5 million to $15 million, depending on how much playing time and incentives and all that stuff. So you bring it, and you're going to draft a rookie. You're going to draft a guy who's probably never going to be a starter because of a devastating knee injury in Bridgewater, and you're going to pay a guy $10 million to basically be a bridge quarterback. How are you going to allocate all these reps? It makes no sense. You're throwing good money after bad. I think what they're doing right now is stupid.
Okay. Well, that's actually a very interesting team to look at. That's a interesting point there, Derek. And we're going through the show, and I think I've counted at least a dozen F-bombs by you so far, so I think I got underneath your skin a little bit.
No, you know what it is I just feel like sometimes these kinds of debates, these are the most fun for me, off-the-cuff debates that, we don't get to talk about it enough. You don't call me on Tuesdays like like Thursdays or Sundays like you call Steve. So I have a lot on my chest. I'm trying to get it all out.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to add another topic to really keep this fire burning with you, Derek. We're going to enter the Patriots 4th and 2 roundtable because I was listening to Felger and Maz. Yes, I was listening to Felger and Maz yesterday, and Mr. Maserati.
I'm not sure why fell for us.
had a very interesting thing to say about Josh McDaniels, and I actually tweeted out a poll. And here is the poll, and I have the results of the poll, and I think it's something that we should talk about. This is what I tweeted out, Derek. So, Tony Maserati thinks Josh McDaniels is overrated as an offensive coordinator. Do you agree with Tony that McDaniels is overrated? I had 907 votes. This is a decent amount of votes, Derek. It's currently, because it's still running as we're recording, yes is at 15%, no is at 85%. Derek, I am shocked that yes is at 15%. Maybe I shouldn't be. You actually, off air, said it was 86% to 14%. That was your prediction, so you were pretty close. Why did you feel that way?
Well, probably because I know the reaction. We see the reaction on Twitter. I mean, every Sunday. I mean, Steve, how many times have we looked, and you too, Russ, how many times have we gone on to Twitter after a game and seen or into the first quarter and intermission and looked at the timeline and people are flipping out because of the game plan? McDaniels is you love him 1 second and you hate him the next. That's how it goes for. I'm sure it's how it goes in a lot of places, but especially under Belichick. The Belichick gets all the credit and none of the blame. The blame goes to the other guys. You'll never see everyone was ready to ship Matt Patricia right out because of his game plan and the defense in the Super Bowl because it was Patricia's fault and not Belichick. That's just how it goes. Now, to your point, do I think McDaniels has been good here? And
do you think he's overrated, Derek?
I think outside of here, he's been overrated. Yeah, I think here he's been a good coach and he's done a good job. It's two different examples where he's been a disaster in other places. And so does he work well here? Yes. We talked about it off air. We got into an argument about it. Shocking.
We did.
We got into an argument about it, and you think that he's had a good hand in developing young quarterbacks here.
I do.
And he has. So that's a good point by you. But we haven't really seen enough outside to know whether he can do without holding Belichick's hand, and whether Belichick, what now we might get the opportunity in a few years because he could be the heir apparent. But he does a good job here. I don't want anyone to get it twisted. I think he does a really good job here.
I think he does an excellent job, honestly. And listen, it's easy to second guess. That's what we do here. I remember doing it a great deal with Bill O'Brien. It's valid to second guess when a decision is made that you disagree with. I get all that. But if you look at his time with the Patriots, and that's what I'm focusing on, it's fair to talk about his time with Denver, and it's fair to talk about his time in St. Louis. But if you talk about his time here, he's certainly not overrated. He's improved as a coach a tremendous amount. And does he get cute at times? Absolutely, Derek. You and I have talked about that. But to say he's overrated just shows the lack of knowledge that Tony Maserati has in regards to the Patriots, because he's not overrated. He's absolutely a very good offensive coordinator. He deserves the accolades that he gets, and he obviously deserves the criticism when it's warranted. But he's not overrated. He's a very good coach. He started from the bottom, worked his way up, and he has, I believe, helped develop not only Tom Brady take it to the next level. He has a hand in that too, because he works very well with Brady. But you also have the season with Matt Castle. You have to give him credit for that. And then, of course, look at Jimmy Garoppolo. He had to have a hand in that as well. So to say he's overrated, then I guess you don't see the development of Castle. You don't see the development of Jimmy Garoppolo. And you certainly don't see Brady getting any better. And I'm assuming Josh McDaniels had no part in it, and I think he did. Steve, your thoughts on all this?
All right. Do you hear that? Can you hear that?
Yes.
No. Can you hear the knock at your door? Because we're having an intervention to stop you from hurting yourself by listening to these chuckleheads every day. It's like,
okay.
I sent the guys with the little white coats on their way to your house.
Wow, you're the second person that said that to me. That's scary.
Yeah, we need to rein you in there, buddy.
Okay.
Listening to those. So now, let me get this straight. They were asking the question: do you think he's overrated as an offensive coordinator?
I believe it was just in general.
And they're using
I threw in the offensive coordinator because that's who he is.
As a head coach to qualify. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard? These guys crack me up. You crack me up. I love you to death, man, but you crack me up.
Okay.
Now, this guy, okay, we're going to play along just for the sake of chuckleheadness. I mean, is he overrated as an offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Look at the Patriots offense. Look at the Patriots offense. Now, other than Brady and, Gronkowski, are there any Hall of Famers anywhere in the last 17 years? Maybe Randy Moss, and that's about it. You see any? So you would think that the offensive coordinator would have a lot to do with what they're doing, offensively. Now, granted, he inherited, what Charlie Weiss was doing, and he just, kept it going. But I think he's a tremendous offensive coordinator. And the cuteness factor has been toned down the last few years. And you and I have talked about this off air.
Sure.
We've talked about this on more than one occasion. He's toned that down quite a bit. Now, does he still try to keep teams off balance? Yeah. And at times, sometimes I think he's competing against himself because he's trying to keep it going and he tries to, throw these other things in there. And, people, when they complain about McDaniels, they go back to the Super Bowl. And they were like, why did he throw that pass to Brady? Well, how about the fact that it was wide fucking open? Excuse me, now I'm swearing too. It was wide open. And, now everyone's, Doug Peterson, he's so, Doug Peterson is getting all these kudos for running the same fucking play the Patriots did 10 minutes before, except they completed the pass. Okay, so what the hell? So Doug Peterson is a genius and Josh McDaniels is a bum because Danny Amendola threw it 6 inches over Tom's hand.
Wow, we have totally gone off the rails today.
I mean, give me a break. And I can't believe you still listen to these people.
I know. All right. Listen, I had all these topics planned, and unfortunately, or fortunately, what mattering how you look at it, Derek and I got into an argument, and then it just blows up from there, which is good. It's actually it's been good there, Derek. I actually enjoy going back and forth with you. I'm gonna just limit it to one final topic. We actually did have some questions for us, but I'm gonna save that for the next episode because we've actually been going for a long time in this episode. So I'm gonna throw out probably the biggest bomb of a question right now, and then that's how we're gonna end it. Derek, do you think the Brady Belichick situation, we'll call it a situation, is overblown?
Well, are we sure we want to end on this topic? Because I'm not sure.
Yes, we want to end on this topic. We totally want to end on this topic.
No, I don't think it's overblown. No, you know what? It has been overblown here. I do think that locally it's been overblown because neither one of them. Do I think there's an issue? Okay, let me answer this way. Do I think there's an issue? Yes. Do I think that locally it's been overblown? Absolutely. Because Neither one of them can fart without a 3-hour talk radio show, discussing what the backstory is. They can't say one sentence without an entire TV show dedicated to what that sentence means. And I think that there's tension. I do. There's some kind of tension, and that comes with success and egos and personalities and changes over time. I 100% think that do I think it's as serious as everyone claims it is? Absolutely not. Do I think that there is some bad blood? And I think a lot of it stems from Alex Guerrero. Personally, I think that is really an issue. I think that Tom, for better or for worse, is all in on this TB12 thing. We know that.
Yep.
And I think that he believes that he needs Guerrero by his side in order to continue playing. And I think that Belichick, this is just me personally.
Yep.
I think that Belichick hates that Brady believes it, but it's not just Brady. He's gotten other guys to believe it, and they're striving away from the team doctors. And I think that drives Belichick bonkers. Okay. And I said I turned 28, and all of a sudden I say bonkers like that's an average word to say. Apparently I'm getting older. I'm catching up to you two. So
wow.
I would say that.
Oh my God, yeah. You're not even halfway.
Well, I would say that that to me, Russ, is where the tension is. If you were going to ask me, it comes down to Guerrero. I think that, and
we've talked about that.
There's been too. Yeah, there's just been too much. There's been too much out there to not get back to that. If you will read the tea leaves, sure, but absolutely it's overblown because, like I said, they can't do anything without a huge overreaction one way or another.
Sure.
Or another.
Sure. Absolutely, Derek. And listen, we've talked about the tension on this show, and we've talked about this actual subject. But the thing about it is it hasn't gone away. It's still being talked about. It's become a huge thing locally. And if you're a Patriots fan around the world, you might not get to how big it is here. It's huge here. Brady Belichick. That's all people are talking about, basically, is this tension, this issue. We're calling attention. Actually, it was Robert Kraft that first said that there was tension, but that's the way it goes every single season. I actually believe that. Is it a little bit different because what you said, Derek, with the Alex Guerrero situation? Potentially. But I think that there's always going to be something because they're successful. I think it's being overblown because they're successful. And they're looking for things to write about. They're looking for things to talk about. And the easiest thing to do is talk about Brady and Belichick. And you can get 6 months out of it. I've called this the new Deflategate because that's exactly what it is. It's taken the place of having all that talk. Now we just do Brady Belichick for 6 months. And that to me is what's going on. So I totally think it's overblown here locally because partly I think they need something to talk about. I do think there's tension, like you said, Derek, but I don't think that's unusual. I think the only unusual part of it is that it might be heightened because of the Guerrero situation. But beyond that, they're professionals. They're not getting a divorce. People are treating it like this is a divorce. It's not a divorce. It's tension. All relationships have situations that you deal with, and this is just one of them. Steve, your thoughts?
It's interesting because on another podcast earlier this week, I spoke with Matt Chatham, and when we had mentioned Matt was coming on, a lot of people sent me DMs or emails saying, ask him what he thinks about this whole thing. So I said, well, I'm not going to put him on the spot because when we had originally talked to Matt, we said we wanted to talk about the draft and free agency and all that. So I said, let me word this in a way where I'm not putting you on the spot. I said, you played for the Patriots for quite a few years. You were on 3 Super Bowl champion winning teams. I said, was every day show ponies, unicorns, and, red petal roses in the locker room? And he just started laughing, and he was like, I think I know where you're going with this. And he said, I could circle any day He said, let's just pick 2004. And he's like, I bet you I could pick any day, October of 2004. And Matt Chatham was either mad at somebody. Somebody was mad at him, or one of the coaches chewed me out, and I was mad at that. And somebody else was mad because the coach chewed Matt Chatham out. And he was like, the perfect world doesn't exist. And he was like, now, if you're asking me, was there some tension? And he said, I'm sure we're assuming about Alex. And he said, was there some tension with Bill in that? I'm sure there was. Was there some tension with Tom? Absolutely there was, because he's a firm believer in Alex. And he's like, are you asking me, did it affect anything that took place on the field or in their preparation? And he was like, and then my answer would be absolutely not. It's nothing new. There's tension every year. Yeah, he's like, you can't put 53 type A personalities in the same room and expect everyone to get along, including the coaches.
Yeah.
And so I think it's overblown.
Okay. And
Russ, you and I talked a while off air before we started, so we haven't gone as long as you say, although it's been probably an hour at least.
Okay.
I do want to mention Odell because I just want to hear your reaction because I know that you're going to freak out.
Okay, we could talk about Odell.
If Odell Beckham Jr. He's clearly available. I know that the Giants are saying he's not. Everybody's on the table, but they don't want to hurt his value, so he's clearly up for grabs.
Yep.
Do you pull the trigger?
No.
No, I don't think. I'm not saying it's reasonable. I'm just curious if you want him. Do you want him as a fan?
I don't want him. I don't want him for two reasons. First reason is that I actually think Brandon Cooks is good enough at the wide receiver position, so I don't want him. I've had people come to me and say, well, you can have them both. I said, no, you can't have them both. That's not going to happen. So if I'm to choose, I'm going with Brandon Cooks, and I'm going to stick with that. I don't want a player that it's about him. This is a team here. Odell Beckham is about Odell Beckham, Derek. Don't want him.
Yeah, see, I think if Gronk were to retire and you were to get rid of that kind of salary, then you could have them both hypothetically.
Maybe.
But you're not going to have those kind of massive contracts, all in the same offense. That'd be really hard to do. I'm not.
Do you want him? Would you want him to make the move for him?
Look, in a Madden situation where you can kind of mess around, I would love to upgrade Cooks with Beckham. I mean, Cooks is a good player, and he's been extremely productive. But Beckham's more dynamic. He's just better. I mean, if you look statistically at how they've been, I mean, Brandon Cooks has been like 1,000 yards.
Yep.
I mean,
Derek,
Beckham's been like 1,300.
Sure.
It's
Oh,
crazy.
listen, he's dynamic, Derek. How'd things work out with Randy Moss in the Super Bowl? Did they win it?
Well, I mean, if you want to go down that way, I mean, you could.
Oh yeah, let's go down that road
they
because
lost this last year with Gronk. I mean,
sure.
Randy Moss is one of the best receivers, and Gronk's one of the best tight ends ever. So, how do you want to go that way? We've seen him win.
Well, I want to go down this way that the offense would have to be tailored around Odell Beckham Jr. Similar to how it was tailored around Randy Moss.
Beckham is a better overall player than Cooks is, and he's more well-rounded. Beckham can play in the slot. We saw that Cooks can't. One of the biggest disappointments, quote unquote, with Cooks. Let's not get this wrong. I like Cooks, and I think he's a good player. But one of the biggest, quote unquote, disappointments with Cooks this year, and I think we all talked about it, was the number of drops he had when guys were close to him. It was like that's why I was like, okay, well, he can't really play the slot. He's really more of an outside guy, and I think he'll be even better next year than he was this year. So.
I totally agree, Derek. That's why I wouldn't give up on him.
But if you were going to ask me who I'd rather have, well, I'd rather have Beckham. I mean, if you want to offer Brandon Cooks and like a third-round pick and, you want to try something like that, sure. But I'm not going to go out of my way and throw a first-round pick at Beckham Beckham's going to be looking for one of the biggest receiver deals in history, and you're already paying Cooks
Derek,
$10 million.
Have you seen how Odell Beckham Jr. has acted in New York? He's a me guy. He's not a team guy. Don't want him.
Yeah, I'm not. That's fine. I think you can win with me, guys, if you can put him in the right situation. I don't think there's any argument, though. He is definitely a volatile personality. I mean, you have to rein him in. There's no question.
Yes, he is.
I just think it's a fun discussion. That's all. I was just curious. But Steve, what do you think?
Well,
Steve?
I think if wide receiver was a really, I think like a glaring need, I could see them doing this because we know what kind of guy Beckham is. He's one of those. He's like a Des Bryant type of personality. I think
exactly.
Beckham and Tom Brady would be very tight. I think if they did bring him in here, he would be very tight with Brady. I think he would be, for the most part, on his best behavior.
Sure.
The problem with him is he's been hurt a lot lately. And, and is it really is it a need? And no, they don't. They have so many wide receivers now. They really don't need another one. So would it be worthwhile for them to invest in him? What for? I think you already have too many as it is. You're not going to be able to squeeze everyone in there. Is he a tremendous football player? Absolutely he is. But no, I mean, a year ago, before they had Brandon Cooks, I'd be much willing to listen to that argument. And because they have Cooks, he's a young guy. I mean, he's still, what's he, 20? So to me, it's kind of a moot point because I don't think they need to spend their draft capital on it. Not that he's not a great player. I think he is. And I think
he's a great player.
Brady
I'm not going to deny that.
I think him and Brady would have an immediate chemistry, connection.
Possibly.
Because
he had great chemistry with Randy Moss.
The hell out of Brady. I mean, we saw that the last time the Patriots played the Giants down in the Meadowlands, that regular season game. I think it was 2 years ago, where Beckham came up and he traded jerseys with Brady. And they had that meeting at midfield. So the respect level is there. I think him and Brady would be great together. But
I mean,
you're right.
No
I could be wrong on
this. They don't
this.
need a receiver. I mean, they
don't. That's the whole thing, though, Derek. They don't.
I was really just curious because there have been little things about Beckham. He's posted, like to what Steve just said, Beckham's posted a lot of things about Brady in the past, talking about how he's the greatest. And, there was a video clip that circled around a while back over the All-Star NBA weekend with maybe Beckham saying that he was trying to get to New England. That's really all just like rumor TMZ crap.
Sure.
But, I do think that it's interesting, just for the topic. And if you were to put together a package, if say the Patriots were like, look, Cooks brings some value. He's a good player. He's young and productive and healthy, but Beckham's better. Do we pull the trigger on that? I was just kind of curious because I just think it's a fun thing to end the show with.
Sure. No,
and after you yelling at me and me yelling at you for 15 minutes on the show, I figured we might as well end with a good laugh.
Absolutely, Derek. I'm glad that you brought that to the table. And let me be the third person to add a little fuel to this and say this was one fucking interesting episode. How about that?
A lot of F-bombs. That's good.
A lot
of
F-bombs. Okay.
I'm good.
Well, no, listen, this has been interesting.
You need to get in your car, turn off the radio, put on the CD player between 2 and 6 o'clock, and drive around in circles around your neighborhood.
Drive around in circles, dude. That sounds a little crazy.
Right, and listen to a CD player. Listen to some classical music. Chill out. And don't turn on the radio.
I'm gonna try to take your advice. I'm gonna say try.
It hasn't worked in 7 years. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
All right.
No, we've been saying this to him for 7 years. It ain't. I mean, it is what it is.
Oh boy. Well, listen, this has been a very interesting episode, but we do have to wrap this up. For Steve Balestrieri and Derek Havens, I'm Russ Coleman. Thank you as always for listening to Patriots 4th and 2, the official podcast of PatsFans.com.
I've had a Storm playing in USA. Was awesome with that. I mean, it was flawless from the moment I called them to getting the adjust out there to getting it approved.
See how much you could save with USAA.
Member paid for their participation. 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 Pay for their participation. Pay paid for their participation.